Welcome again to It Doesn't Take a Genius, conversation with introspective perspectives and pithy points of view. Here are your hosts, my friends, Max and Marty.
I think that's Mark and Mike.
Yeah, whatever.
Ramsey!
Marshall, how are you, sir?
I am absolutely fine. Just hanging out in my virtual inspirational man cave.
Yeah, you have a much better backdrop than my non-backdrop of a hotel art. That's what you're seeing there.
Yes. So is that one of those hotels you pay by the hour? Were you able to just book a whole day out? Appreciate you saving the company money. That's awesome. Team player, love it.
I did that one time, and I turned over my sheets, and there was just this large brown stain that went way too long in the sheet, and I said, yeah, well, from now on I'll stay in a decent hotel. There's no sense in this.
I'm gonna spend the extra $12.
That's right. That's exactly right.
Go to a hotel where I don't have to bring my own sheets.
That's exactly right.
Nice. All right, so what are we talking about today?
Just-in-time feedback. This is just a perfect segue. It comes up a lot in my client work. I know it does probably in yours as well. But just this idea of, we've been talking about coaching and helping people come to some conclusions about what they need to do to grow, what are the things in their way, the gaps that they need to wrestle with. And then now it's time for that performance to start and to be giving some regular feedback. And it just turns out that the more frequent the feedback, the better, at least anymore, right? That's kind of a good thing.
Well, we told them when we hired them, they were doing good. Are you saying we must repeat ourselves? That seems a little redundant. Or we have the annual review we do every 3 years.
I have had both of those experiences. Both of those things you just said happened to me.
Yeah. And a lot of times it's the manager or the employee that comes to you. It's not the manager saying, I need to do this. It's the employee going, it's been 3 years since anybody sat down and told me anything around here about how I'm doing.
Yeah.
And that was my last annual review was 2017.
Right.
Right.
And you were pointing out that, I had read an article recently about how some of the big accounting firms and their consultants that they're sending out, younger, junior, employees are, sort of requesting, asking for that. So your supervisor might fill out a survey at the end of every client gig or at the end of every visit, even at the end of every week or every 2 weeks, filling out some form. How you doing? And you reminded me that the Blue Angels basically do the same thing, right? A lot of military missions do the same thing, but the Blue Angels, after every practice run, they sit down and they put up this sign that says it's not who's right, it's what's right. And then they can get very, candid feedback up and down. But I think my favorite story about this is the one about your daughter.
Oh, yeah. Because we get managers all the time saying, these young employees, it seems like after everything they do, they want us to comment on it. And it's so disconcerting them because they, many of those managers grew up in an era where, and this is not
nothing.
Yeah. This is not a management strategy we want to promote, but if you don't hear from me, it's a good thing.
Right. That's
not leadership. That's not coaching. Right. And nobody's talked to me in 3 years. I'm doing fantastic.
Right.
No, that's not how we treat. And then our top guy leaves. We go, well, I don't know why he left. We never speak to him. It's like, no,
yeah.
And so I was thinking about these young people. Like, how did we get to this point where young people need a lot more feedback than the previous generations? And so one of the things, as my daughter was growing up, we had one of the things that we didn't require her to follow through with a lot of things. If you started a sport, you had to finish the sport. But piano. Right. I've met so many people in my life that their biggest regret is they didn't stay with the piano when they were getting lessons as younger. So we told our daughter, you do this for yourself, but more importantly, you do it for us, right? We don't want you to be that person. And so just so you know, to get a frame of reference, the only musical instrument I play is the radio. And
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
I had to pay somebody for every lesson, for every bit of feedback. And so, but she was required to practice. So she, one evening she sat down and was like, hey, it's time to practice piano. And so she's playing and trying to be the good coach. I'm sitting there and I'm saying really good stuff like, I recognize that one.
I've never done that with my kids. I have no idea what you're talking about, Mike.
Yeah, that sounded really good. You didn't hesitate. Good. Yep. You know, even if the hesitation was required, right? And so we do this for like 30 minutes, and she's like, can I be done? And I'm like, yeah, that was a good effort, right? And then she stands up and she goes, can I go downstairs and play Guitar Hero? You're going to go downstairs and play the fake guitar,
Yep.
and that's more interesting than playing the real piano.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And so I followed her downstairs and said, all right, I'm going to watch this. And I'd played before, but I never really thought about it. So she plugs it in, she selects a tune, and she starts playing. And for those of you who haven't played a video game like this before, every single note you hit right, a little flash of fire lights up from the note.
Right.
So if you just hit one note right, you get a little dopamine hit, right?
Yep.
I can see I did right. And then over here to the left, there's a consecutive streak counter.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you hit 3 notes in a row, right, it's 3, it keeps going, right? Now you're up to 5, 10, 15, right? It's keeping, and then there's a quality score. So at the top, there's a score, right? Here's my overall score, right? Here's your previous best, here's the record score. And then to top it all off, right, there's a stadium of virtual people
in love with you.
Yeah, and the better you play, the louder they cheer.
Right.
And they start bouncing, like, you know, so your streaks are going, you're getting a hit for every note, right? And the crowd's going insane, you know, and I'm sitting there thinking, oh Lord, this is the feedback that she's used to.
Yeah.
Right. She's used to, for every single tiny finger movement, getting some positive recognition.
Right.
Consecutive streaks. And she didn't have to go, like, she didn't have to wait till the game was over to find out what her score was.
Yeah.
Right. It was real time, instant information on your performance.
Right.
And all these games are like that.
Yeah.
And so these kids, you know, they've grown up in a world where they had all the information at their fingertips, and the feedback was instantaneous with every behavior at the beginning of the game, middle of the game, and the conclusion of the game. I got feedback.
Yeah.
And then they show up in the workplace, or they show up to practice piano.
Yep.
And they get some guy going, hey, once a week going, hey, you did pretty good this week.
Yeah.
That's not enough.
Right. And you think about some of the workplaces that you're talking about, you know, it's not just that there, you know, is a lack of feedback, but they have survived. That management team has survived in that environment, not just survived, but thrived to where they're now the managers. And so, you know, it's sort of how they were trained to give feedback, is to not give it. You know, you tough it out. You can do this on your own. You got to figure this out. And in fact, they, you know, wouldn't it be weird if they did get feedback? Almost, it's like, you know, I had to go through this, you have to go through this too. This is part of the gauntlet of training. But it doesn't help anybody learn and get better because they don't know if they're doing good or bad.
Right. And even if you can't give feedback, you can share information. Right. What's you know, you've got reports. The managers typically have access to everything's measured anymore.
Right.
So give me access to this. Let me see. You know, we see this all the time. They'll hire somebody in our automotive retail establishments to follow up with the sold or service customers, making sure that they're completely satisfied and that there's a survey to be returned. I can't tell you how many times that they've got this person calling. How was your experience? Don't forget the survey and stuff like that. And I'm like, that's fantastic. Have you given them access to the survey reporting site? It's
Yeah.
updated daily. It's filled with graphs and charts. It tells you which areas the customer is not happy about. You know,
Right.
there's actually a score. Were you contacted by somebody after the service?
Yeah. Yeah.
So this person who's doing this job has a score. They have no idea about this.
They,
They're like,
they don't know it. Yeah.
there's a site. Yeah, so
Yeah.
there's instantaneous daily feedback that the manager does not have to do anything.
Well, you have nicely transitioned us because, you know, we started out talking about why, you know, constant feedback. And there's, you know, a number of good reasons we just laid out there that, you know, your people are used to getting it. It helps them real time in the job to have that just in time feedback. But now we're sort of talking about, you know, what would that look like? And there probably is a scoreboard, and the more it's updated, the more they're going to get those dopamine hits, or at least the opportunity for a course correction. What are some other sort of the tools of what and how to do this that you would suggest for a management team?
Well, what we figured out is that the managers typically have no problem letting people know when they've done it wrong.
Right.
You know, and the survey example, right? So I'll ask people, okay, you know, when was the last time you saw any of your customer surveys? Well, we see the bad ones.
Yep.
Because the manager will print it out, roll it up into a paper. He'll walk across the office and he'll use it as a baseball bat and he'll
Right.
beat us to death with it.
Right.
You know, I'm like, have you ever seen a good one? Nope.
Yeah.
You know, no, that's, yeah, you know, so we know we can give that kind of feedback, right?
Right.
I don't think I've ever had to coach on that.
Right.
But if they're doing what you want them to do and they're doing it correctly, right? If you see it, say it, right?
Yeah.
If you see something, say something. And the
Right.
beauty of this is if you do it in public, which our grandmas told us to do, right? Praise in
Mhm.
public. And you can reinforce with the rest of your team what you value, what you're focused on, and what you believe is important. And you can say it in a positive, fun, congratulatory way
Right.
versus watching them beat somebody to death and terrifying your team
Yeah.
because I don't want what he got, so I'm just going to keep my head down.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
We want people to be elevated and want to aspire to move towards this. And that comes from recognition, praise, reinforcement of the desired behaviors.
I love that. And so, you know, I sort of am picturing this calendar, and it keeps getting shorter and shorter between the event and the feedback. And, you know, I've known stores that do a really good job at a 30-day mark. You know, I had a store that, you know, they would have a sales meeting, their weekly sales meeting, and all the surveys that had come back, and it might be 30 days old, but a survey had come back on a particular employee. It was a perfect survey. They'd read the comment out loud. I think he got a gift card, you know, a nominal amount, but just something that he got recognized in front of his peers. Nice job, Bobby, you know, that kind of thing. Everybody claps. And it just pointed out the things they were doing that were working. Well, I've also seen that happen right after the fact, right? Like the customer has just left, the sale has just happened. And, you know, hey, let's talk about that, you know, deal where you just sold Mr. Smith. Now the really proactive ones do it in a coaching way. And we've talked about our mentor, Dolores Hazel, was the master at this. You know, what did you do that you thought went well? You know, she would let you start to process that and answer that. Okay, even if you just told the guy, you know, hey, here's what I noticed. They're still getting some feedback. But basically what you and I are saying is, what if that happened in the middle of the deal? What if you just told Bobby, do you see that what you're doing right there is working? That's absolutely working. That behavior, keep doing that. They're really enjoying talking to you about that. You know, that's the thing that's made them lower their, you know, defense walls, or just whatever it is that might be that feedback in the moment that helps them with that particular deal. Mm-hmm. What a concept, right? The faster it happens, the better for all parties involved.
Oh yeah. Yeah. To me, we're just the same as dolphins.
Yeah.
So
sure.
So if you go with me on this. So yeah, you go to the little seaquarium thing, right? The dolphin does a trick, right? The dolphin jumps through the hoop. They give it a fish. Right, the dolphin does a backflip. It gets a fish. Right, the dolphin pulls the train around, gets a fish. Dolphin goes over, splashes the crowd. They give it a fish. And the whole time I'm thinking, you're wasting my time as a spectator, right? If you would wait till the dolphin does all the tricks and then give it the fish at the end, it'd be a much better show.
Yeah.
But everybody knows, right, what's going to happen. Yeah. If the last trick was splashing the crowd and and that's when I get the fish, I'm skipping the backflip, the hoop. Right, I'm skipping all that stuff. I'm going to the trick that gets me the fish.
Right.
Right. And it kind of goes what we're always talking about, right? Just like you talked about, there was some recognition and a little bit of money. The money is almost completely irrelevant.
Right.
Right. It's the recognition. And I think it's the same with the fish. I don't think the dolphin gets full on those little fish, but the dolphin knows that's a reward for a job well done.
Yeah.
But you can't just wait and save all your rewards up, because then people forget what were the cool things that I did.
Well, and that's exactly it, because we'll put a link to this in the show notes, but the AID feedback method, the point of the AID feedback method, if that's how you chose to give that immediate feedback, is to give them a nugget right then and there to say, here's what you did that was valuable. A, we recognize it and appreciate it. B, here's how it's really helping you or not helping you if it was negative feedback. Either way, it's giving them a leg up right then and there in the moment on something that would improve, their lives, frankly. So why not do that every chance you get?
Oh yeah. Yeah, it's so powerful. If you truly want this level of performance, then this is the type of feedback you're going to get.
Yeah.
You're going to have to give. And so if you've got your team to this level, with this level of feedback, if you take your feedback up here, they're going to come with you.
Yeah.
Right.
I do want to say that there's an opposite to that, which I have seen that, there are some fast food restaurants that, right at the exit, there's a bell, ring the bell if you had great service. Okay. Managers didn't recognize that at all. That's some customer. And B, what did we do? Why did we get great service? Or was that just a sarcastic teenager, right? That's not actual effective feedback. And that's why we really stress things like scoreboards and the AID method, something that really makes it specific and helps the person actually, get the information communicated to them about what they could do differently.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And we've talked about scoreboards, right? Everybody thinks the scoreboard is for the spectators. The scoreboard is for the players.
Right.
Every scoreboard is visible from the field of play. And so if I'm a basketball player and I'm coming down the court, I can glance up. I know how many minutes are left. I know if we're ahead or behind. I know how many fouls we have. I know the key information so that I can make an informed adjustment in my performance.
That's right.
Without talking to the coach.
Yep.
And that's what the coach ultimately wants is I want people who have the information and they've been reinforced and taught the behaviors to the point that they can make adjustments in the game during the game because they have real-time information.
That's it. That's exactly it. Okay. So with all this goodness, when do you do this? I mean, this is sort of something that's haunted us on the coaching series that we just did is, it's going to take some time to implement this new coaching behavior. The same is true of feedback. So Mike, what do you say to that manager who's saying, now, how am I going to exactly get this accomplished in my day-to-day job?
Right. Well, one of the things that we know is that scheduling it.
Yeah.
So that doesn't take away that when you see it, say it. But if we schedule 15 minutes a week, whatever it might be, we know that during that 15 minutes, I'm going to have to talk about something. And if I've caught them doing something right or seen them doing something right up until that point, that past week, that's a great time to review that. The beauty of scheduling is, and we understand the whirlwind. So the beauty of scheduling is it's just, and we talked about this, I'm getting my teeth cleaned and the lady says, okay, in 6 months, I'll need to see you again. Would you like afternoon or evening?
Mm-hmm.
Like 6 months. I don't know what I'm having for dinner.
Right.
I don't know 6 months. And we schedule it. Only one of two things happen. I either keep that appointment or the whirlwind sweeps me up and I reschedule and keep that appointment.
Right.
But if we don't schedule it, if she didn't schedule that, then it might be a year of procrastination before I ever get back there.
That's right.
Right.
That's
Or I
right.
wait till there's pain. Right.
Yeah.
And we see this, right? We only coach when there's pain.
Yep.
Right. I'd only go back to the dentist when there's pain because I didn't schedule the coaching.
That's right. That's right. Another good technique is to do something that puts a physical reminder into your day. So, coaches will talk about wearing your watch on your offhand, putting something in your pocket that, will sort of, for a while, surprise you when you put your hand in your pocket and go, what's that there for? Oh yeah. AID method. I need to go do that. A Post-it note on your monitor, that reminds you to do it. I just worked with a client this week, actually, who he has a spreadsheet now of every employee, and there are some specific things he wants to do with each employee. So he has all these columns, and he's going to go through until he gets X's in all those boxes. And what he's doing is putting a physical reminder in his system not to skip some of the folks that are kind of out of sight, out of mind. He's going to make sure he hits all of the folks on each of those columns. Mm-hmm. So, there's a number of ways you could put some sort of physical reminder into your system that just gives you that sort of hiccup to your day that makes you go, why do I have that? Oh yeah, that's right. Time to go give feedback.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. I've seen it as simple as here's a list of my people. And after I've had a conversation with them, I put a tick mark by it.
Yeah.
And towards the end of the week, I look down the list and go, okay, there's 3 people I haven't even talked to this week.
Yeah.
They're on my team.
Right.
And I've probably seen them do something right. I could probably go talk about it with them.
Yeah.
I had one guy, and he did 6 pennies. So in the morning, he'd put 6 pennies in his pocket. And then as he talked to an employee, if he caught them doing something right and said something, he'd take a penny out and lay it on the keyboard of the computer. And so at the end of the day, he'd look down, and if his pocket wasn't jingling and there was, change on his keyboard, felt like he did a pretty good job that day.
That's funny.
And then the tech, I had one guy, he just created an Outlook reminder that was reoccurring every Friday.
Yep.
And it was a question. How did you do recognizing your people this week?
Mm-hmm.
And that was it, right? And so every Friday you sit down and go, yeah, it's a pretty good week, right? I did a pretty good job, or, oh Lord, I got swept up in all the chaos and the firefighting, and there was some really cool stuff that happened, and I've told no one about it. And I'll redouble my efforts this coming week.
Yeah. What's so cool about a lot of this stuff is that if you take the time to put a reminder into your system, your feedback is just as authentic and just as well received. I mean, the fact that you had to plan and remind yourself to do it doesn't mean you're less of a manager. It means that you're appreciated all the more by your team that you took the time to make sure you took the time. That's basically what's happening there. So should we talk about, this is sort of a bonus round idea, but this concept of, another way to make sure this happens is for the management team to get together and talk about what it is that needs to be reinforced. Mm-hmm. So I think you've had a store that has actually done this in some form. Am I right about that?
Yeah, I've got a store. There's multiple managers all overseeing the employees. You've got one manager that's kind of taken on the role of training manager. Mm. And so he does a lot of the one-on-ones and things like that. And then he'll do that, but then he comes back to the team and they huddle together and he reports out. I've met with Scott. He's very excited that he's having success with this, and he's committed to work on such and such for the next 2 weeks. We all need, when we see him doing it, need to say something. And if we see him slipping, bring it to my attention, bring it to his attention. Let's try to nudge him back on track. And so it takes a village, but the village has to know what each person is working on.
Yeah, if they don't know, they don't know. Yeah.
How can I support the guy? You had this great coaching conversation, but if you don't tell everybody else who interacts with him, and as an outside vendor, as an outside coach, it's super powerful when they share it with me. And so they'll share, hey, listen, if you get a chance, if you pass by Scott's desk today, just bring up the fact that he's working on this and that he's done a pretty good job lately.
Yeah.
And
your management team was bragging on you.
Yeah, these guys were just telling all sorts of great stories about you in the meeting.
Right.
And then I'm more apt to get more of that behavior. So you can use what I call force multipliers. So I've got my impact as the coach, but I can multiply that if I've got multiple people that are also looking for rewarding and encouraging the same behaviors that this person's committed to.
And you get the accountability of, hey, it's time for our weekly check-in. Let's make sure we're still giving feedback, guys.
Mm-hmm.
Love that. Schedule that meeting.
So we see, when we first start this, we'll have the store, okay, give me an employee bright spot. And they'll say, oh, so-and-so, he stayed late, he did this, and it was awesome. And the question you have to ask as the coach is, did you tell him?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Did you say something to him?
Mm-hmm.
Well, it was real busy. So I'm like, okay, doesn't count, right? There's two parts. There's see it and say it.
Yeah.
Right. You did a great job seeing it, step one. And sometimes we have to make that a behavioral pattern change.
Mm-hmm.
You're seeing it, but until you say it, you haven't done the complete behavior.
Yeah, because it's not been demonstrated that you're even noticing it. Yeah.
Right.
They're getting nothing out of this.
Right. And you thought enough of it to tell the other managers. You have to think enough of it to tell that employee.
Yeah, that's great.
And it's a game changer.
Well, okay. So why, what, and when to do just-in-time feedback? We've covered a little nugget here. We would love to hear from those of you in the audience who are watching and listening, how you do feedback, what's worked for you, and questions you have, because we're sort of at the end of this sort of arc of episodes about coaching and feedback and how to do these one-on-one moments. So we'd love to hear any and all feedback and questions that you have so that we can take that for our next season of episodes here. I feel like we've reached the end of season 2 or something. Is what it feels like, Mike. I don't know. But anyway.
We're becoming so sophisticated.
Oh,
right?
Yeah.
At some point, we're going to have to do a cliffhanger. Right? Introduce a new character. This is going to be great. Yeah.
I'll bring some puppets.
Yeah. And speaking of feedback, we always get tons of praise from our announcer, who's worth every penny that we pay him. So let's see what John's got to say about this week's episode.
What a segue.
Thanks.
And there you have it, another session of contemporaneous extemporizing from Mark and Mike. I know it's redundant, but consider who we're talking about. As always, feel free to share the ideas you heard here. No rights are reserved, no permissions needed. Thanks. See you next time on It Doesn't Take a Genius.
That's good enough.